Geek Fitness.
Hey everybody, Robert here. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the third most important thing I've done to lose 63 pounds over the course of the past 4 months. This thing is something I think everybody should do. I don't think it's required to lose weight, but I do think it's required to lose weight in the most healthy way possible. I think it also has tremendous health benefits in addition to just losing weight. You know, losing weight comes with a whole host of health benefits all on its own. However, if you do this, you're going to gain additional health benefits by doing it. The number 3 thing that I did to really kind of change my life and my health is to avoid processed food and especially added sugar. So you might hear this talked about a lot today, and there's good reason for it. So in the United States today, a little over a third of the population is now considered obese. That's kind of scary. We really do have an obesity epidemic in the United States. And other nations are not far behind. Australia, the United Kingdom, their rates have been rising as well. And this is kind of a new phenomenon. In 1975, for example, there were 124 million children and adolescents worldwide, or just under 1%, who were obese. This is ages 5 to 19. Today, or actually 2016, is the last time this data was collected. So 2 years ago, 6% of girls and 8% of boys, ages 5 to 19, were obese. So we've got this growing curve of obesity in the world. And you can really see that in not just developed countries. The problem has now reached undeveloped countries even, but you can really see it in a country like America, who isn't the biggest by percentage wise, but we have the highest number of obese people out of any country in the world. And we're not the most populous nation either. So we do have an issue. I think part of that is lowering of activity, obviously. But the biggest part of this is diet. And that's where the processed foods comes in and the sugar comes in. So we used to eat more whole foods through our whole history. We were hunter-gatherers. Then we got agriculture, but we were eating whole, fresh foods from farms that were raised. The Industrial Revolution happened. We started packaging foods, making them more convenient. But then there was another switch point that happened. And that's when the food pyramid was put out by our government that kind of showed what you should be eating more of. And grains was the biggest part of that, and fat was demonized. It was on the top. So that's when we had this big craze, especially through the whole decade of the 80s and onwards. I think it might have started in the late 70s actually, where it was all about low fat. So low fat foods didn't taste as good. So another thing that drives people to purchase food is the sugar content of food and the sodium content as well. Those 3 things our bodies crave. We want them. We want sweetness because if it's high caloric intake, because for millions of years, if we found something sweet, it was something we wanted to have. We wanted to get that for that quick shot of energy. But it became to where it was available 24/7 all the time. And when people have the choice between a thing high in sugar and not high in sugar, they're going to take the thing high in sugar. So with these low-fat diets, food companies started adding more sugar into the product since they were taking away the fat. So they could say this product is low fat or no fat, but they were piling sugar in. And before long, they realized that sugar really helped their sales. And, these large food companies have kind of done their research, right? And they've identified something that they call the bliss point. The bliss point is the amount of sugar that is most appealing to the most number of people. So they're adding sugar to products you would never expect. Now, you drink a can of Coke, you know that it's loaded with sugar, right? It's 39 grams of sugar. It's more than you should have in a whole day, right? So if you're drinking sugary drinks, as I said in an earlier video, that needs to go. Like, you need to get rid of that. You need to drink water. You need to drink coffee is okay. I'm drinking black coffee right now in my Doctor Who mug. So, coffee is good. Teas are excellent without added sugar, right? Black tea, especially green tea, really good for you, right? Unsweetened almond milk is something I've taken a real liking to lately that I like to drink. So, and there's a lot of no calorie products, drinks that are on the market now that I really like, that are like based on real fruit and stuff like this. So there's more options today, but you really need to watch the sugar in the drinks. But beyond the drinks, sugar's in everything. You'd be shocked, when you look at breakfast cereals. This is the stuff we think is healthy that we're feeding our kids. Breakfast cereals, granola bars, yogurts, all these products, these processed foods that are packaged and sold in supermarkets are loaded with sugar. There's a documentary I just saw called That Sugar Film. I would highly recommend it. I will link it in the description. I think it's that important and that eye-opening about why we are where we are in obesity. And the culprits, really, it's not fat, it's sugar, right? Sugar is loaded with calories. It spikes your insulin way high, and it's causing type 2 diabetes, obesity. The list of health problems it's causing just goes on and on and on. So as part of my transformation, that's something I had to change. I had to go back to eating whole, real food. It's not to say you can't have a treat once in a while, that I can't have a regular, sensible portion of, ice cream, maybe once a week, or I can't have something sweet once a week. But most of the sugar I intake now comes from natural sources like fruit. When you have a piece of fruit, like an apple, it's got sugar, yes, but it's natural sugar. It's not added sugar. And it's also loaded with fiber, which helps slow down and regulate your insulin and has lots of other health benefits. So it's okay to get sugar through natural sources if you're eating a whole piece of fruit. But if you're getting rid of all the good fiber and all that and drinking it as fruit juice or eating it in, a pie where you're adding a bunch more sugar in, that's not good, right? Especially, and again, those are okay as a once in a while treat, right? But the problem with most Americans and most people is that becomes part of your regular diet because it's so delicious. It's something you eat every day. Maybe it's something you eat every meal. I look back at what my diet used to be, and it was probably 4,000 to 5,000 calories, and I should be eating, really 2,000 or 2,500, for years. So that's why I gradually put on over 100 pounds over the years. And it was sugar that was doing it to me. And high glycemic carbs are just as bad. Again, processed food, processed white flour, pizza dough, white bread, chips. These kinds of things are just not healthy because they're converted very quickly in your bloodstream to glucose, to sugar, and that spikes your insulin. And insulin is the hormone in your body that makes your cells receptive to store energy. So if you eat too much food, more food than your body needs, and your insulin is up, you're going to store that in your fat cells, and you're going to get fatter. And when your insulin is up, your cells cannot be tapped to burn the energy that you've stored in them, so you will not lose fat. So if you're constantly spiking your insulin all the time with sugar and high glycemic carbs, that's going to be a problem. So you've probably heard things like shop around the perimeter of the supermarket. That's good advice, but it's not, it's not everything, right? Like, you want to hit produce, right? You want to eat fresh produce. For me, I buy fresh produce every time I'm at the grocery store, but I have to be careful not to buy too much because it goes bad pretty quickly, right? So I buy enough that I know I can eat until I'm going to go again, but I do supplement that with frozen vegetables, especially. And vegetables are really king. And frozen ones are great because they're not like canned vegetables where they add a bunch of sodium and salt and other stuff to them. You want to find just the fresh frozen vegetables that have nothing added. Any of them are great. Broccoli, anything green, sweet potatoes are great, very high in nutrients. I do leafy greens, any kind of vegetables that you like, you need to make it a big part of your diet because they're very low in calories and they will help fill you up. Fruit is where you want to get your sweetness from, for the most part. You want to avoid, again, anything with added sugar. That is really the big problem in this country. I believe that it's sugar and the way the companies have packed it into every product they sell because they sell more, right? They've figured out what the bliss point is. They're going to add sugar to the product until it's at that bliss point, and they're going to sell more, which is better for their bottom line. But it's not what's best for your health. So that's what you have to realize. You have to make a conscious effort, start looking at the labels, start looking at the sugar content, especially added sugar, where it says added sugar. You want that to be zero, really. You want to eat whole, fresh foods as much as you can. Lean meats, beans, vegetables and fruits, whole grain bread, especially sprouted breads are even healthier for you. Avoid the processed breads, the white breads, avoid the processed boxed dishes and cereals and yogurts, and start reading the packages and looking out for that sugar. So this can be something that's very hard for people to do, but I believe that if you just did this, if you didn't do any other thing that's part of my plan that I did, my 6 things, that this is just one of the 6. If you just did this one thing, your health would benefit tremendously and you would lose weight. I think it's really that important to not just count your calories and know how much you've got going into your body, but you need to also really make an effort to eat healthy, whole foods. When you combine those two, it's really a double whammy, double benefit that you're getting. And the great thing is when you start eating whole, healthier foods, you can eat, the volume of food that you can eat is much higher than you would expect when you're going onto a caloric deficit. Because like I said, like whole chicken breast, eggs, vegetables, these are all low calorie things. I mean, you could eat pounds of cucumbers, for example, and tomatoes and not get many calories at all, but you're getting lots of nutrition. And that's the important thing. When people are eating sugar, they're getting calories out the yin yang, but they're not getting the nutrition that their body needs. So they're constantly hungry, right? Part of that is the sugar. They constantly want that next sugar rush into their body to spike their insulin that drives those cravings. But also your body is saying, hey, I need more nutrition. You need to eat, right? So it's a vicious cycle. If your diet is heavy in sugar, it's going to get worse and you're still going to not get the nutrition that you need. You start eating healthier food, your sugar content is going to go way down and you're going to start getting the nutrition that your body needs. The vitamin A's, the vitamin C, the vitamin D, the minerals, all that stuff that is so important that you probably don't even know what your intake is on those things. So very important. Try to watch that film, that sugar film. I've linked it below so you can check it out. I think it is on Netflix, Amazon Prime probably. You can watch that. That will show you the whole history of how we got to where we are with this kind of sugar crisis in America. And I do think it is that. It's a crisis. And you don't have to follow the status quo, right? And luckily, there's a lot more healthy options out there today. There's lots of small companies that are Whole Foods, supermarkets, for example. Lots of foods that smaller companies are putting out that are much more natural and healthier, don't have all the added sugar. So seek those things out and support them. You're going to pay a little bit more, but your health is worth it, right? So start looking into this and start trying to focus on eating healthy, whole foods. The smaller number of ingredients in something, the better it is. And especially watch out for the added sugar in products. Avoid products with added sugar, and avoid those high glycemic carbohydrates as much as you can, and go for the more complex carbohydrates that you find in whole food. So that's my third recommendation for you if you want to lose weight, is really do the best you can to avoid processed food and added sugar. I hope this helps you guys. Let me know how you're doing. Bye.